$86. We are suggesting that we close that gap by increasing our use of reserves, $617,744, and a tax increase of 1.9%, which would generate $314,342. The combination of increased use of reserves and the tax increase of 1.9% would close that $932,000 gap. If you look further down the screen, you'll see our budgeted expenditures for the 2019-2020 school year, $43,220,650. Our proposed for 2020-2021 is $44,292,939. What's also noteworthy, if you look at the change over on the far right side, it's just over $1 million. It's $1,072,289. That represents budget to budget increase of 2.48%. When we presented the last time, we were looking at a budget to budget increase of 3.15%. And we were asked to find some additional savings, which we've done. And so our budget to budget increase has decreased down to that 2.48% number. If you look at our revenue sources, the two really to point out to you that we've referred to at the top of the slide, the tax levy, the change using 1.9% on tax, $314,342. And you can also see that large change in reserves of $617,744. So total revenue is up again over $1 million from 1920 to 2020-2021. We like to use a slide that shows where we spend our money. As you know, we're a people business. We educate young people, and we need staff and resources to do that. We're always happy to show the percentage of our budget that is used for instruction. 79% of our budget goes to instruction to make sure that we're doing educationally sound activities with our children. Our general support makes up 10% of the budget. Pupil transportation, 7%, school lunch, 2%, and our debt service, 2%. So overall, again, a good use of our resources, devoted where they should be, and that's to the folks that work with our young people and educate them in a positive way. So with that said, Mike is going to talk to you a little bit about what a 1.9% increase would look like on our community's tax bills.
One of the biggest questions since I've been in the position the last 8 years is how will a 1.9% increase affect an individual's bill? Remember, we're raising the tax levy 1.9%. What that looks like to an individual taxpayer, again, is based on assessments and other factors that go into their tax bill. So taking a look on average, based on the 2019-20 property assessments, again, without exemptions, star, agricultural clergy, estimated increase to tax is about 39 cents per thousand assessed. Last year, it was 38 cents per thousand assessed when we took a look at it. So on the screen, you can see the values going from $100,000 to $500,000 assessed value of a property. And again, just the estimate increase to an individual's tax. So this is on top of what they are already paying. With the tax cap, again, just as a reference, take a look. The tax cap or the tax levy threshold and the actual levy that we went out with. As you can see, starting in 2013-14, we had a 4.49% tax levy threshold. We went out at 3% that year. The next year, as you start to see from 13-14 all the way back to 17-18, that's where we had money put back in from the gap elimination. The gap elimination took over $2 million away from our foundation aid. It was slowly restored. As we've got back into 18-19 through present.
Michael, can I just interrupt? With the gap elimination, money was not put back in, correct? It was monies weren't being taken out to the extent that they were being withdrawn from the district.
Correct. Yeah. So as though they gave us additional monies, they just returned money that should have been there in the first place.
Thank you.
Yes, correct. So as you take a look, and one of the things to take a look at too, the tax levy threshold One of the things that was originally put out with the tax cap or tax levy threshold, they called it the 2% tax cap. As you can see in our district, it never fell into that 2% range. In 2016-17, you can see where the consumer price index dropped. We are at 0.46% as our tax levy threshold. Some districts have faced within the last probably 5 or 6 years a tax levy threshold in the negative. Some have actually looked at one that's been a double-digit tax levy threshold. So for us, as you can see, we've been fairly constant over the last 3 years at a 1.9%. Taking a look at our reserves, again, Superintendent Turk had talked about increasing our amount for this year, but I feel it's important to take a look again at our reserves. We sit with a very healthy set of reserves through a lot of financial planning over the last 20 years, and I'll credit some of my predecessors with that. Taking a look again at our EBLAR, Employee Benefit Liability Reserve, that's something that we don't touch, and there are specific laws that talk about really how you would access that almost in an emergency case. Our unemployment reserve, again, we are self-insured. In the future, depending on the economy, we may look to take some out of our unemployment reserve. We have not put in enough. Right now, we are comfortably financed in that area in the current budget and the budget going in next year. Our retirement reserve, our employee retirement reserve, we had actually in 2013-14 added to that reserve. We were over the 4% fund balance and chose to move the money to the retirement reserve. In talking with the auditors and the comptroller, it's suggested that we start to move money from that to cover our retirement expense for the ERS. Looking at that, I've put in that we've used $200,000 for 2021 and then $100,000 after to offset district obligation for ERS. Our capital reserve, again, we reduced in our last project. Tax certiorari, again, that's what we would keep in reserve if we had a pending tax issue. Again, people can challenge their assessments. Usually large businesses challenge their assessments, and we keep that amount in reserve for 5 years. We did reduce from last year. It was $200,000 down to $100,000. Workers' compensation, again, that years ago in our $20 million project, it was suggested by the comptroller in a previous visit that we use money from that reserve. It was overfinanced, which we did, and we brought that reserve down to $1 million. Our debt service fund is money that we've used to offset. As you can see, we've kept the standard number in and have planned after this year a standard number to decrease all the way through 2037-38. Because we are looking to take out of reserves, we can use this money from the debt service fund to fund current debt service that we have for projects. So again, you're looking at the bump being for the 2021 budget, but then we are looking to hopefully move back into a general pattern in 21-22.
So here are the propositions that we are proposing and that we would see on our ballots come June 9th. Proposition 1 would be the actual 2020-2021 budget. Shall the Board of Education of the Homer Central School District be authorized to expend the sum set forth in the same amount of $44,292,939 to levy the necessary tax therefore. Proposition 2 is a similar proposition to what we've had for a number of years now. It's our bus leasing and purchase of vehicles proposition. This would have the district not to exceed the estimated maximum cost of $820,000 and for a term not to exceed 5 years to lease 7 66-passenger school buses and 1 54-passenger wheelchair bus, and also have us not exceed the estimated maximum cost of $60,000 to purchase 2 vans. And this is, again, is in line with our bus replacement process that we have. Now, our third proposition is the same proposition that you saw last year for library funding for the Phillips 3 Library. As you know, courtesy to the Phillips Free Library, our district provides tax collection and voting day services, as well as giving them space in our budget newsletter. We do not participate in the creation of the library budget, but we advertise it for them and collect those monies. And they have kept that number consistent with last year's number, $196,165. So those are the three propositions. A little bit different format this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our budget vote will be held remotely with absentee balloting. The date for that vote will be June 9th, 2020. We will mail absentee ballots, ballot directions, and budget flyers to all qualified voters, along with a postage paid envelopes to return their completed ballot. And we will send those to only qualified voters in the district that meet that criteria listed below on this slide. We will also hold a required budget hearing that'll be held remotely, similar to tonight's meeting, on Tuesday, May 26th. That's before our next board meeting at 6:30 p.m. And it will be viewable from a link on our district website, as tonight's meeting has been as well. So that is the presentation. We would entertain any questions that any of you have.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how we identify the qualified voters, and if there's a process for people that don't receive a ballot?
Yes, we are mailing to every postal patron in our district 2 absentee ballots and return stamp envelopes. With also the caveat that if there are other people in that household who are qualified voters, that they would notify us here in our district and we would provide those for them.
Is that notification going to the district clerk?
Yes.
Thank you.
One of the things that's not on this slide, but one thing related to the vote, obviously, is the process that we followed this year to identify board members to fill the 3 seats that will be vacant. This year, unlike others, there is not a need to have a petition and get signatures. This year, someone had to let us know here in the district that they were interested in running. We sent them a self-nomination form that they would simply fill out and send back to us. And that has already transpired. And we have 4 people who have expressed interest in the 3 available board seats. And those names of those people will be put on the ballot alphabetically. Any other questions for us?
Just one quick note from the Budget and Finance Committee. We can get into details on the numbers under new business if we would like, but the committee was very concerned about the current economic climate and especially how the tax increase and the tax levy limit would be impacted both in the upcoming school year and the year following that. So we had some pretty robust discussions around, with the consumer price index currently being negative, with the unknown variables of how the rest of the fiscal year is going to play out, we wanted to make sure that, while it might be a little uncomfortable, we wanted to make sure we struck that balance of what the tax levy limit would look like next year and the year after, as well as looking at what the carryover amounts would be at various levels of taxation. So we have all that broken out in spreadsheets if we want to get into it in new business, but I just wanted to let everyone know that the committee looked at that pretty robustly.
Are there additional questions or comments? Thank you. Moving on to new business. If I could please have a motion to approve the warrants and claims auditors report.
So moved, Aaron.
Second, Luke.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? If I could have a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved, Mike.
Second, Shanice.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? For your information is an investment summary, budget status report. If I could have a motion to accept the Committee on Preschool Special Education reports.
So moved, Julie.
Second, Luke.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to accept the reports from the Committee on Special Education.
So moved, Julie.
Second, Shanice.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the 2021 budget adoption resolution.
So moved, Luke.
Second, Mike.
Questions or comments?
I just have a comment. This is Keith. I'm opposed to any tax increase for this year. I just think it's insensitive and not responsible. There's a lot of people losing our jobs. I just found out at my work last week that things continue. Everybody across the board at my company will receive a 10% cut. And it would be 20%, but we were able to get a loan. And therefore, that'll at least carry us a little bit. But if the way things continue to go, I just think across the board, we cannot give any increase to our tax this year. I'm in favor of Proposition 2 and 3, but not 1.
Thank you, Keith. Additional questions or comments?
So I just have a comment. So the Finance Committee really delved pretty deep into, the finances and what we're going to do and responsibilities and such. And you saw the breakout of the dollars and where they go. At this point, I mean, I understand not taxing. I mean, I understand that, or not frivolously taxing. But if we don't tax, we're cutting programs. So it's a direct response to, what we offer students and how we can better the students for, garnering scholarships and stuff throughout and making it into the colleges of their choices. So again, I just wanted to put out there, I know Luke said it too, but the finance department, the audit or finance committee really did put a bunch of time and effort into and delve deep into raising taxes. Again, if we don't get the money from somewhere, we have to cut program.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, it's a bad situation all the way around, but we were very leery that a zero this year very likely could lead to the scenario where the maximum allowable tax levy next year is less than what we collected this year. Maybe considerably less, 300 or 600,000, depending on the scenario that we're looking at. And, there's no pleasure in it for sure. Nobody likes to raise taxes, but it seemed like it could really put the district and the students and even the taxpayers in a bigger bind next year and the year after, with a big fluctuation depending on how this all shook out. So, like we said, we tried to balance it the best we could, and this seems to be a happy medium where the rollover amount is maximized and the tax increase is minimized. So that's where we ended up.
I think the other unknown, there's been some suggestion about the potential to have mid-year or quarterly cuts throughout the academic year next year as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. That is correct.
Additional questions or comments?
Has there been any mention of, I see people talking all over about when the fall starts, things that might have consideration that we haven't had to do in the past. More social distancing, which could all impact the budget as well. So I guess that's my concern with not going into the next school year as prepared as we can be, is we just don't know what other things are going to be thrown at us in addition to the cuts.
Right. We often talk about the uncertainty of funding sources, this year being an extreme one. And again, it's a good example that you brought up, Julie. We've just begun now looking at what a reentry to school looks like. But some of the suggestions that you're seeing really brings into question how districts will be able to afford that and what an impact that will have. And so again, not a great scenario that we find ourselves in, but again, we're trying to be responsible, keeping in mind what our community can bear.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Keith.
Abstentions? Can I have a motion to approve the OCM BOCES agreements?
So moved, Mike.
Aaron. Second, Aaron.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Did we have community voices that we needed to address, Superintendent?
We do not.
Okay. If I could please have a motion to approve personnel?
So moved, Chuck.
Second, Luke.
Questions or comments regarding personnel? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Does that bring us to board member activities?
Luke, I know you got some.
Well, before we got to that though, Sonia, I wondered if there was anything additional from budget and finance that folks
Right.
wanted to share, or do you think we covered all of that?
I'm sorry, Luke, was there additional comments regarding your budget and finance meeting?
No, I think we got the information out there. Just, we should all keep in mind that especially now the budget cycle really doesn't stop. At the moment we're counting up the financial changes of this current year. How that fund balance can roll into next year, and then also trying to plan for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So it's a never-ending process. I thank the committee and the administration for all the input they've given, and it's never easy. Like we said before, the capital project itself, was a voter approved increase of about 1.4%. The increase in contracts is set every year, so it's going to be a constantly you're going to keep pushing that rock up the hill all the time. So I thank the committee for it.
Thank you. Anything to add, Michael? Mr. Kilmer, you're all set?
Oh, yeah, no, we got it all, I think.
Okay, thank you. Board member activities.
I actually had a couple of things a little bit different, of course, in our current circumstances, but had to shout them out anyway, and this setting would be great. There was an article of the Cortland Standard that you probably saw about Catherine Epker and her soccer achievements. Fabulous. So
Outstanding.
one of our seniors who resides in my house was asked to speak at 2 different SUNY Marville online events for their Earth Day speaker series, and I got to sit on that, which is pretty neat. And 2 of our students are going to the National Youth and Government Kona Conference online at the end of June. One of my other sons, Matthew, and junior Jenna Johnson are going on that, so shout out to them. And not officially with the school, but thanks so much for all those in our community doing the Adopt a Senior project to show our seniors their appreciation. That's been really cool to see our community get behind our seniors this year. So kudos to them.
Thank you, Keith. Additional board member activities? Upcoming events, Superintendent?
Yes, you can see that I've added in our Blue Pride Senior celebrations for the 15th, 18th, and 19th. Also noted our Family Wellness Day on May the 22nd. We are in the process, the high school folks, in the process of finalizing some ongoing celebrations for our seniors, some end of year activities. The goal is to have that information in the hands of our seniors as we travel around to their homes later this week. So we're looking forward to finding out what those special celebrations will look like and communicating that so that as many people as possible can take part.
As it relates to the May 22nd activities, if I could please caution or ask the preparers to be mindful of the fact that some children will not be home with their families, as family members may still be out in the workforce as essential or frontline personnel. So to keep that in mind, that some of the children may be participating in that and as a singular, and that they not feel excluded or jaded in that activity.
Right, and the social emotional committee did a nice job of identifying things that can be done with a group of people or or by yourself if that's something that people choose to do, and not just on that day, but these are activities that they can continue to do to promote wellness in their families.
I had two related questions to the schedule. Was there any thought or discussion going on? I'm sure it's not able to be finalized, but with regards to us not having the spring break this year, is there any way that we can take that from the end of the school calendar, or way to incorporate that?
Yeah, we're looking at that now, Keith. The governor has not given us great clarity with that. We're being led to believe that he will stay silent on it. He has given us the ability, once we meet our 180-day requirement, to end the school year. So we're looking at that. We'll be communicating that as soon as we can finalize it. But that certainly is under consideration. The governor's intent, we believe, was not to extend our contractual obligations to our employee groups, but to make sure that we had continuity of learning through the April break. So we'll be looking at that, communicating that as soon as we can put a bow on it.
Excellent. The other question was, and maybe this is going to be clear with the upcoming, senior activities, but is there plans to announce publicly the top 10%, the top 10 valedictorian, salutatorian, and the additional awards and honors?
Yeah, that's one of the activities that the high school group is planning right now. And again, what we are hoping to do is to have it in one fell swoop. We can communicate all those things so that people can get them on their calendar and have them to look forward to as we move through the remainder of the school year.
Very good. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, if I could please have a motion to move to executive session for the purposes of discussing the employment history of a particular person or persons.
So moved.
Second, Mike.
All those in favor?
Aye.
the worst, is trying to balance professional
Mhm.
and your kids.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many Zoom meetings I've been in, and my son comes running in like, "Mom, make me lunch." Talking. Can't do that.
If you're not careful, you'll end up on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we're back into public session, Sonia.
All right, thank you. If I could please have a motion to approve the employee payment resolution.
So moved, Luke.
Mike.
Kelly.
Second, Mike.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Who was that?
Abstentions? That Sonia was opposed?
Okay.
Abstentions? If I could please have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mike.
Second, Julie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All righty, folks. Hey, that's another good meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Stumbles at the beginning.